Gayatri Mahamantra. With your back straight, both hands on your laps, left beneath the right, contemplative mood. Gayatri Mahamantra. Om Bhur Bhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Invocation of the Divine Master, Adi Guru Muni Ved Vyas. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Deva Sakshat Par Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Akhanda Mandalakaram, Vyaptam Yena Characharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Om Shri Gurave Namaha, Vyasarupena Avahayami, Sthapyami, Dhyayami, Pujyami, Tato Namaskaram Karomi. Shrimed Bhagavad Gita, chapter Akshar Brahma Yoga, chapter number 8, verse number, shlok number 20. Before I come down to the exact words of the shlok in Sanskrit, it's more important to understand what it wants to convey. When you will be reading the shlok, or even when you'll be listening to its interpretation, you may find that there is a great disconnect between our state at the moment and what the verse wants to convey. It's like something, in more simple words, a kid in the fifth standard is now being taught a chapter that happens to be the part of standard 12. And there is no relevance to that. The standard fifth curriculum and the curriculum of standard 12 may be connected at a macro level for certain subjects, not all of them, but for certitude it can be said that the understanding of the child at the fifth standard shall not be able to easily comprehend the fact of the standard 12 curriculum. Anyway, that is what we may experience while we try to understand this shloka. The shloka conveys the unmanifest dimension is the source to this manifested creation. And it has also gone to an extent in the previous verse, number 19, to convey that when there is the night for the Brahma, Ahoratra, everything goes into a state of freeze. Everything freezes. Nothing exists. Everything perishes. It undergoes dissolution. And it also was conveyed in the previous verse that should not be understood at the end of everything. Whatever is left as a karmic dispensation or a karmic bondage shall again revive when the creation would or shall come into its form in next time. There may be an interlude of few million years in between, but nothing will cease to exist. Everything shall revive right from the point where it culminated last time. So, the state of pralaya even should not be understood as the end of the creation or the end of the chain of the events in a human life or the life of the any aspect of manifested creation. There is another state thereafter when there is a day of the Brahma. Night and day was merely conveyed in for the understanding to a sadhak about a state of pralaya when everything undergoes dissolution and a state of creation in its manifested form again. Now, having said that, now the timeless master conveys under the divine intuit that unmanifested dimension where everything appears to be dissolved in the state of pralaya, that also is not the ultimate. It has its own source to a larger unmanifest dimension. No, it creates a confusion in the mind because at the first instance we are not easily able to comprehend one thing, and that is everything that appears to be tangible at the moment, as we can sight through our sensorial organs, the way everything appears, it owes its existence to something which is invisible. This fact itself is not an easy comprehension for a human mind in an ordinary state. And here in this verse, you're trying to go even beyond that and convey that there is a larger unmanifest dimension to the unmanifest we are talking about. It appears to be sort of a jumble, a sort of a riddle. When one thing is not visible, how do you want me to believe upon an existence which is still invisible and is the source to the one which is invisible at the secondary level? So it means that there are two dimensions. One is the invisible at the secondary level, and another is the invisible at the primary level. When secondary level is not coming to my comprehension, how do you expect me to comprehend the primary invisible dimension? Yes, it creates a confusion, certainly. And that's why the question comes up, why are you trying to burden a student of the fifth standard with a chapter that corresponds to standard number 12, 12th standard? What is the need for that? It's a very valid reason, very valid logic, valid excuse. Why? I'm not able to understand at the foremost that there is one dimension which is unmanifest. Everything comes from there, everything goes back to that place, and it may be that it sleeps for a duration of millions of years, yet again it shall arise. It's not easy for a human mind to comprehend all that. And I am not even able to digest that first aspect, and you've taken me into the next verse immediately towards another leap, which is even beyond that. Well, the examples we can have from this mortal plane cannot do justice with the aspects of this subtle dimension, yet we'll try to approximate somehow. One of the great learned scholars, the great, I must say, a great exalted being of our times, in his writing has mentioned, I've read it in his book corresponding to this particular verse, that understand it this way. There is a blackboard. There are different classes going on the same blackboard. One teacher comes, draws diagrams of geometry. Another comes, wipes out. In the second period, it's history. The third period, another teacher comes, wipes out. It's English, economics, and so on. The blackboard remains the same, or the board remains the same. Different subjects are drawn and taught and rubbed on the same board. Now, understand the secondary unmanifest dimension as the board on which different subjects are taught on the same board, and those different subjects could be different forms of existence, different lives that we pass through in the chain of events, etc. And then going beyond, that board itself is also constituted by matter, which is five elements, primary elements. That board may be on the wall, made out of concrete with a paint, or that board may be of a wood, whatever. Whatever it is, but it's a creation which owes its existence to matter, primarily five elements. So, understand it this way, the different classes being taught on the same board are chain of events corresponding to a life, occurring in a life, maybe in this or the one before or one that will come after. And the board to be understood as the secondary unmanifest dimension where everything goes and vanishes into, undergoes a dissolution. And there is a second or the primary unmanifest even beyond that, which is the five elements of which this board comes as a creation. Board takes its form. So there are two subtle dimensions. One is the plain blackboard or board upon which different classes, different subjects are taught, and the second is the material with which this board takes its form, owes its form to, that is elements. So likewise, that great learned exalted being has explained the two subtle dimensions that we may not easily be able to comprehend at the moment. I understand it well because as a teacher, Even when I close my own eyes and I'm trying to perceive, I'm trying to understand, trying to comprehend something which is not a part of any fact of my life today. Yes, I try to make my understanding run without any boundaries, without any limitations to understand it. And with the kind of belief I hold in my own ancient Indian wisdom, I convey myself, yes, there is an existence which is beyond, which is unseen. Yet, I am not able to convince myself that easily that there shall be a time when everything will undergo a dissolution, it will be a pralay, then wherever, whatever state we were, it will be like becoming a statue in that form. And then again, when the creation will revive, we will start right from there. You know, statue. We used to play when we were kids. Even today, children play statue. Statue means wherever you are, you freeze. And when you're released, you become active. And that's only a play. Here, the difference in this becoming a statue or freezing is that everything loses its existence too. Existence, apparent existence. The physical dimension vanishes into the unmanifest, which is also understood under the realms of ancient Indian wisdom as Hiranya Garbha, the golden egg, something which is impregnated with the entire constitution of the creation, the manifested creation. And this verse talks about a dimension which is even beyond, from where from this golden egg also comes into form. And that is eternal, that is untouched, and that is the ultimate abode for any human evolution, the ultimate abode. Now comes the point when this subject was not of any relevance to the mind of a seeker today, with the kind of growth it has acquired today. Why are we talking about a subject that is beyond our comprehension? Being in fifth standard, there is no need to burden us with the chapter of the 12th standard. That is how we started about questioning the placement of the verse, questioning the subject in this verse. But now I can say, after a deep contemplation, that yes, the timeless master, in the beatitude of composition of its curriculum, has very rightly placed this verse over here. It is a fact. We will not be able to understand the subtle dimension and beyond it another unmanifested dimension, the Parampurusha. We may not be able to comprehend. But certainly we are conveyed about a fact. And what is that? There is not an end to anything unless we acquire the final emancipation. Emancipation is final, but I'm just adding a word as an adjective to it here, the final emancipation. There is no end to the journey of our evolution. There may be there may be different stages, but yet the final plunge will only happen when we don't come under the norms of dissolution for any interlude, that is pralay, when we go beyond that. Why is it so? Let me take again a mention of Kathopanishad with Nachiketa and Yamacharya. Yamacharya wants to negotiate with Nachiketa. He is reluctant to answer one of his questions, and in exchange, he offers him, I am prepared to offer you complete joy of all comforts and luxuries. You name it, and you shall have it for any number of years with full vigor. That's not that you will only have them, you will be able to even cherish them. So, have vigor for any amount of time that you want. Although the verse in Kathopanishad does not mention the time in its own enumeration, but yes, I can, only for the sake of explanation, I can say, for example, he offered him, you are given or bestowed with an age of 1 million years, go and have a gala life, enjoy the way you want, the way you can perceive with full vigor. And Nachiketa was smart enough. He then answered with a question. He answered with a question, what after that? No, that made Yamacharya answerless. What after that is, of course, that you will have to come back again on this mortal plane and then again work out for your final emancipation. Now, that was not acceptable to Nachiketa. He said, that means that endless joy, even that endless joy, is circumscribed by a limitation of the time. Maybe it is 1 million years, maybe it is with full vigor, yet I have to come back here. And if that be so, why do I why do I fool myself and try to give myself a dream which will ultimately lead nowhere except again on this mortal plane? No, no negotiation, no compromise. Give me what I seek of you. Having understood that, this verse also conveys to any ardent seeker that even if we undergo pralaya, there is no end to it, yet the perpetual aspect of the creation will certainly unravel. We'll again take the birth and restart from where we left, even after billions of years. The final emancipation is the only way out for which we should be working. So, this slok gathers its relevance. If it is there to construct and build a confidence and some radiance into the mind of the seeker about its journey, about its effort, especially when there are so many boons that are around for a spiritual seeker to acquire. When you're on a spiritual path, your evolution also comes with few boons. At times, people stay with the boons. It's like moving for a journey towards a destination. In between, you find certain picturesque environments so beautiful that you become entangled with that and you don't want to move any further. You say, the beauty it is here. That is what I was seeking. Yet, that is not the destination. You really want to culminate your journey to that aspect? You want to be hinged to that? Or you want to go further? So, a seeker has been given an understanding you are not to stop at any allurement midway, but should not rest unless you gather your final destination, that is emancipation. Because that is the only place where one arrives, then there is no coming back. Then the laws of the nature shall not apply upon you. Otherwise, the laws of the nature shall equally apply to even Brahma, who has a day, who has a night, who has a certain period of time as its life. That's what has been conveyed to us in the last about 4 to 5 verses. Even Brahma has an age. So if you really want to go beyond that, your seeking should be for only final emancipation. So do not get hooked, entangled for any allurement that comes in your path. When a seeker gathers that, yes, our state may not be such at the moment that we are able to comprehend those unseen dimensions. Yes, I understand because I am one of you. Just by the sake that I'm teaching the subject does not mean that I have concluded what the verse wants to mention. Even I, when I close my eyes, I'm not able to easily comprehend that pralaya, how the pralaya would be, what happens even during the state of the deep sleep, and what shall happen when again it shall arise, again unfold, unravel. I'm not able to easily comprehend, except that going by the words, I convey myself and I move on. Yet, I do give myself an understanding that that is not the end, and I should be working like Nachiketa towards the final emancipation and do whatever is required. And do whatever is required to ultimately graduate to that level where I can discriminate and distinguish by every passing moment between what is going to stay forever and what that is not going to stay forever. Nitya Anitya Bheda. This is what this verse wants to convey. This verse has to be handled very carefully because it talks about a fact which is not before us today, but is the fact. Let us accept the fact and keep moving. ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है.